Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of our series. Today we're going to start with a very small topic. We're going to be talking about IKs and FKs. So what is an IK, what is an FK? Well, we're about to answer that question. First of all, I want you guys to go back here into the Behance page of our good friend, I always forget his name, Ugur Ulvi Jetiskin. And we're going to download two rigs. I'm just going to download one for now, but make sure to download the other one because we're going to be using it soon. We're going to download this Ultimate Walker, and we're going to be downloading this Ultimate Handy, which is this little guy with two legs and the hand. We're going to be using another one later on, so if you want to download it right now, you're free to do so, which is this one, the Ultimate Bony. So those are the three that we're going to be using, but for now, I want this Ultimate Walker. So I'm just going to download, and remember, every single time that we download these guys, they're usually in like a RAR file or like a zip or something. So I'm just going to go here. I personally use 7-zip, so I'm just going to open the archive. I'm going to Control-C this guy, navigate to our project, wherever you have your project saved, and here on the scenes file, we're just going to drag and drop this guy. So now that we have this guy, I'm going to be able to explain what IK and FK are and how we can use them for our animation. So let's, of course, set our project real quick. There we go. And I'm just going to say File, Create Reference, and we're going to reference the Ultimate Walker. This one is an excellent little tool to use. We're actually going to be using him in the next couple of videos when we do a walk cycle. And the cool thing about this guy is since he has nothing but legs, that's the only thing we're going to be focusing on. We don't need to be distracted by the head or the arms or the hands. We can focus only on the legs, and that way we can really learn the basics of a walk cycle. So what is an IK, what is an FK? IK and FK stand for two types of rigging. One, which is called inverse kinematic, and the other one, which is called forward kinematic. So forward kinematic and inverse kinematics are ways in which we can control our rigs. Usually, you're going to find that most rigs out there have the option to switch between one or the other. Now, one is not better than the other. It's just that they offer different kinds of what would be the word of approaches to the general animation process. So in this case, for instance, these legs right here are in IK mode, inverse kinematic, meaning that if I were to select this crystal right here, which is the controller for the whole guy, and move it up, all of the other parts of the leg, in this case the hip and the knee, would need to transform in such a way that they can follow the foot properly. Okay, so we're pretty much animating the guy inversely, right? We go to the outermost part, and the outermost part controls all of the innermost areas, like in this case, again, the knee and the hip. So we decide where the foot goes, and then everything else tries to adapt itself to follow that specific position. Usually, when you're working with IKs, you're going to have something called a pole vector, which in this case is the knee. The knee, or the pole vector, is what tells the whole system where it should be aiming at. So let's say, for instance, that I want to rotate this whole foot, again using the diamond back there. I want to rotate the foot so that it faces out. You can see that the knee is still facing inwards or to the front, and we don't want that. That's why we would grab this guy right here, which is the IK pole vector control, and we would move it in such a way that the knee now faces properly, which is to the front of the feet. Usually your pole vector should always, especially on the knees, should always be facing to the same side. So we just move this little point here, and it will automatically rotate to try and aim or target this specific point. So this right here, again, is an IK system, inverse kinematic. Now, if I were to go here, you're gonna be able to see that usually, yeah, right here, most of the rigs will have some sort of blend at one point or another. So for instance, we have this IK blend right here. So if I press 0 here and change to IKs, you can see that the controllers of the whole system of this walker change. And now if I want to move the foot, there's no little crystal to move it. So I would need to grab the hips, move the hips, and then grab the knees, rotate the knees, and then position the feet where I want, because there's only rotation. So if I want to position this foot like flying all the way over here, doing like a flying kick or something, I will need to rotate the hip, I will need to rotate the knee, and then I will rotate the foot. So the big question is, well, which one is better, right? Like, is forward kinematic better or is inverse kinematic better? And again, there's no really one particular good answer. Some animators will only animate with IK, some will only animate with FK. Some of us, for instance, myself, I like to switch in between them depending on what I want. So usually, in my specific case, I usually animate everything with FK, because I find it a little bit easier to control with just one single controller. I know that by manipulating this controller right here and the pull vector, I can get everything where I want it to be. The issue with IK, you're going to see it later, is that we get this sort of rubber banding effect sometimes. I'm going to show you how to fix it as well, and that's it. But for instance, there are several occasions in which you might want to animate with an FK, because it's just easier to do something like a follow through or an overlap, similar to what we did with the tail and the little pendulum. So I'm going to do a quick example here on how I would use each of them. Let me just like go back real quick here. All the way back. By the way, quick note here. If you go to a little guy running here on the bottom corner, and you go to your undo preferences, you're gonna be able to set how many undos you want. Usually I think it's set to infinite, which I don't recommend, because if you've been working on Maya for like a long time, like more than 2 or 3 hours, the queue is gonna be like super long, and that's gonna eat your RAM. So I usually do finite, and 250 is more than enough. However, if you want to what's the word, increase this because you feel like you need a little bit more of a cushion there, feel free to just increase it. I just have that. So there we go. Now, let's imagine that this guy is sitting on a like on a wall, kind of like Humpty Dumpty, right? So let's do like a wall here. Let's grab like this face right here and bring this all the way down. So I'm just gonna grab this guy. Let's position so he's like sitting there. Now this right leg I'm gonna animate using forward kinematic. And this left leg, I'm gonna animate using inverse kinematic. So if this guy's just sitting here, let's relax him a little bit. So let's just like push him back. He's just like enjoying life there. And this leg, I want this leg to be swinging. So I know that we're gonna have this thing called, or I'm gonna position this leg like this is gonna be the first frame. Let's like rotate this, and even like the little thing right here. It's probably not going to be that far back. So something like this. And then we're going to have a little bit of a rotation here. So I can select all of these elements right here. We're going to press S. And then let's go to frame like 60. And let's do the next rotation, which will be like here. And then the knee just like moves forward. The foot moves forward as well. And the toe moves forward. Okay. And then we go back to the first frame. We have all the keyframes set on, so we don't need to press S because everything is keying itself. And if we go back to the frame 120 and press S, and if we play this, now we get this like a very nice like movement of the leg, right? And we already know how to make this into a loop. Now I think 60 is way too much, or it looks very slow. So I'm just gonna grab everything here. Let's reduce it by half. So let's go to like frame 30. And this one's gonna go to frame 60. There we go. And we only need 60 frames here. If we press play, we're gonna get this, right? Just like a very nice swing of the foot. Now, of course, we know the trick here. We can grab like the knee, the ankle, and the tip of the foot. Grab everything, and let's offset them 1 frame. And then I'm gonna grab only the ankle and the tip of the foot. Offset it 1 more frame, and then just grab the tip of the foot and I'll offset it 1 more frame there. There we go. Now if we give this a little bit more time, let's say like 70 frames, the first swing is going to look very smooth, right? Because we have that offset. Now here's a trick that I haven't shown you before, and that's why I like to kind of like hide these little tips inside of videos, so that I'm sure that you guys are watching the whole thing. Because later on, some of you are going to be coming back to this video, because later on I'm going to talk about this and I'm going to say, remember when we saw this in the IKFK video and you were like, oh, I skipped that one. Like, yeah, that's why you don't skip videos, because there's always useful information for you guys. So here we go. I'm just going to grab all of the curves here, and I'm going to do something called infinity. So I'm going to grab everything here, and I'm going to say curves pre-infinity. I'm just going to say cycle, and then curves post-infinity cycle as well. And if we go into view infinity, what's going to happen now is, as you can see, Maya is interpolating this cycle that we have here, because I know that this first frame and this last frame, even though they're offset right now, they all start and end at the same time. So if I were to just connect the cycle, we create this very nice curve. So now, no matter how many frames I have, I could have like 200 frames, the character is always going to be doing this very nice swing with the foot, right? Now here's another cool thing. If I were to grab all of the elements here and make the swing faster by grabbing all of these guys and just like scaling these things down, let's see, to like 45 or so, it still respects the fact that it's a cycle, and it will continue to do the cycle very, very nicely. So there we go. So this is the right leg, and as you can see, we've done a very, very similar animation to what we did with the pendulum. And FK is really, really good. Forward kinematic is really good whenever we want to do this flowy things, because as you can see here, it is very easy to manipulate and modify these elements. Now let's imagine that we want to do the same thing on the other side, right? Like on the left side. It's gonna be a little bit trickier because I would need to like move this guy down or back, rotate this so the feet is like up here swinging, and you can see that we can't easily control like the curvature of the feet. I would have like this extra controllers here, like this foot roll or this foot brake, or sorry, the toe roll. There we go, that I would need to animate. So it's an extra controller that I need to animate in this particular case. You can see that there's a little bit of a bend there. So I would need to grab this guy and probably push it up a little bit. So that would be my first pose. Let's go to frame 30. And I know that the foot would go all the way to the front. And I would need to rotate the whole thing here. And then bring the toe roll to the other side. And again, if we check the other animation that we have here, it's this sort of position right there. So in frame 30, I would need to like really push this guy to the front. Like this. And then just like go back on frame 60 to this guy right here. So if I check the animation, you're gonna see that the animation is not the same. See? Why is it not the same? Because Maya, remember we talked about this, Maya interpolates whatever it sees on one pose and tries to correct it to the next pose. So instead of just going from this point and doing this very nice curve on the other side, it's just going to try to cross as fast as possible to the next position. So what I need to do is I would need to go to frame 15, for instance, and I would say, hey, you know what, Maya, remember, you're coming from this arch right here. I want you to kind of like flow down here. I still want you to be like delaying the rotation a little bit, maybe a little bit with the toe roll as well, so that when we see the whole thing, we see this sort of effect, right? So it is possible, as you can see here, it is possible to animate the exact same thing on both options. A good animator should be able to accomplish the same thing no matter what system he is given. However, some systems are a little bit easier to do than other systems. So for instance, again, if we take a look at this, it's not the same, but we're getting there. We will need to polish a couple of more poses, check our timing, check our curves, and something that was very, very easy to achieve with this side using forward kinematic becomes a little bit more problematic using inverse kinematic. On the other hand, if I wanted to do, for instance, like a kick, like let's say we want this character to literally just kick something, I'm just gonna go all the way here, right click, I'm gonna say break connections, and one thing I can do is I can say, hey, you know what, frame 1, I want this foot to be like back here, like just like back here. He just brought the whole foot back. Let's move the toe roll to the other side. And then on the next couple of frames, like the final frame, the kick frame, for instance, will be frame 40. And I want this guy to like really just like push this leg and kick the character, or like a ball or something like that's coming from the back like this, right? Always make sure to place the knee on a proper place. So again, we grab this guy, S. So now, as you can see, we get this. Boom. Of course, right now the leg is doing a very weird, what's the word? Interpolation there with the knee. Actually, we need to go back, grab the knee. Let's keyframe here on frame 40. And then I'm on frame right here. There we go. So now we're going to have this. Boom. And of course, we need to go to like the intermediate frames, the in-betweens, and we need to clean them as well. So I would expect the leg to be coming from this area. And we're going to have, boom, that hit right there. So doing that, of course, with the proper timing and everything, it's gonna be way easier to do with inverse kinematic than trying to do it with forward. Can you imagine like trying to get the exact same poses there to like modify this and make sure that it's bending properly and everything? So that's why having the option to switch between forward kinematic and inverse kinematic, it's a little bit easier than to not have the option. A lot of the initial riggers, if you're learning rigging, more often than not, you will be taught how to do both systems. Forward kinematic is the most like simple and easy to understand, but inverse kinematic is really not that hard. And as long as you can implement it on just like the legs and the arms, you're gonna be golden as a rigger, because just having that option to switch between one and the other is usually really good. Legs by like common construction, legs are usually inverse kinematic and arms are usually forward kinematic. However, again, a good rig should have the option to switch between both of them on both areas. And that's it, guys. If you want to do this small exercise, this like a simple twist here and kick over there, just to get used to the systems of forward and inverse kinematic, feel free to do it. It's a really good practice, and that's it. Get ready for the next video, because we're gonna jump straight into a walk cycle. So that's it for now. I'll see you back on the next one. Bye-bye.